Before we get started today, just a quick special announcement. We love doing the B&H Photography podcast for you guys, and now we'd like to hear from you. We'd like to know what you love about the show, what you think we can do better, and the kinds of topics and guests you'd like us to cover in the future. If you love the B&H Photography podcast and you want us to continue bringing the kind of program you want to hear, we invite you to fill out a quick survey, which you can get to by clicking on the link in our show notes. And now, on with the show.
You're listening to the B&H Photography Podcast. For over 40 years, B&H has been the professional source for photography, video, audio, and more. For your favorite gear, news, and reviews, visit us at bnh.com or download the B&H app to your iPhone or Android device. Now here's your host, Alan Weitz.
Greetings and welcome to the B&H Photography Podcast. Today's guest is photographer Mark Mann. Mark is a friend of the show and a past guest, and it's our pleasure to welcome him back to talk about a couple of new projects he has in the works. Mark's work as a portrait photographer is well known. A quick look at his website will find a who's who of the entertainment, news, and political spectrums. He's photographed at least 3 U.S. presidents and so many celebrities it's kind of hard to keep track. A few favorites include Robert Redford, Reese Witherspoon, Iggy Pop, Jack Black, Dave Chappelle, Rihanna, Stevie Wonder, Willie Nelson, and fellow Scotsman Sean Connery. His advertising clients include Adidas, Hennessy, Gillette, Vitamin Water, NHL, and the Ford Motor Company, to name just a few. In 2014, Mark was commissioned by Esquire magazine, making portraits of 80 American men ages 1 through 80 to celebrate 80 years of Esquire magazine. Mark, welcome back to the show.
Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody doing?
So far, so good. And yourself?
You know, I'm having a great day today, a superb day today.
I know we planned on speaking about a couple of new projects that you've been working on, but you think we could take a quick jaunt back to your early days as an assistant for the legendary fashion photographer Nick Knight? How did you get that gig, and what were some of your takeaways after working in that environment, and perhaps from Knight himself?
You know, when I was a student, I think I had a little more, I was a little fresher. No, that's not the right word. I would say like the British word is cheekier.
Perfect. I like that.
A little cheekier than I was today. And I suppose that I think I went after things in a different way. And my old professor at Manchester Polytechnic was Nick Knight's old professor. So every year he dragged Nick up from London to kind of talk to us about, his career and everything. It was, an amazing to meet Nick. And at that time, Craig was his first assistant. And, we all got to ask some questions. And my question was like so cheeky. It was just like, can I work with you? And he said, let's talk about it later. And he offered me like some, at that time it was, I think they called it a work placement. So I went and did a work placement with him for some time. And, the variety of work that I got to see in a week was just, or 10 days or however long when we started, everything from some Naomi Campbell it was crazy. One of the first things he made me do, and I'll never forget this, that these guys were all busy in the studio shooting, and he was casting for a job later in the week. And the job was basically for a dye company called Dylon. And the image was going to be a girl in kind of tight, sort of Daisy Duke shorts, opening the top button of her shorts and showing the color of her underwear. There was something about how you could dye all your underwear all different colors. And he said, listen, we're going to do a casting. The girl's going to come in. We don't need to see faces. I just want you to photograph them from the knees to belly button. One shot with the shorts, one shot with the shorts open, and then one shot of just the underwear. And that was my first kind of gig as a professional photographer. And it never really has got any better than that. It was it was like 100 girls came through, and it was just like, okay. And then, it was like, wow,
Right.
I like that.
Well, it's
I like
kind of
this
weird
gig.
that was the same audition that John, Jason, and I had to go through to get this job. That's
I believe it. I actually believe it.
I mean, were there a lot of people around? I mean, at the studio, were there other photographers? Was it a big scene?
He was pretty low key. He was low key, and he was incredibly encouraging. And I, I, I was kind of time for. I think term was starting again, and we had to sit down. He said, "Hey, I'd like you to stay here with me. If you want to stay, we can do some kind of full time thing." And I just decided I wanted to go back to college. And although I try not to have any regrets, but I think that might have been a bit of a mistake. I should have maybe stayed on assisting Nick a little longer.
Why do you think that? I'm curious.
I don't know, man. Just the access and the exposure I was getting. I mean, not exposure I was getting, exposure to things that I was getting. I think I don't. You can't go back. So
that's a very hard thing to measure.
Yeah, exactly.
It is so hard to measure.
No regret, but then okay, kind of things changed a little bit in how he reacted to me, because he had another few days left, and then when I was saying goodbye at the very end, he really thanked me, and he said, "Listen, Mark, we love you here, but I think photography is going to kill you. I think you're too nice a guy. Don't be a photographer." Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks, Nick. Wow. And I don't think he was saying it out of malice. I think he was saying it that, out of like genuine how he was feeling about the industry at that point. But yeah, that was that. Happy days, though. Happy days.
Yeah, I'm. If you don't mind, I'm kind of curious. I mean, when you say the level of access, because I think by most measures, people would look at your career and say it's been quite successful. You've had, photo shoots with the upper echelon in many worlds. Did that take a long time to get back to for you, or do you think that path might have been quicker if you had stayed, or would it just been a totally different type of photography you'd turn to?
I think it would have been a different type of photography, because in college, I didn't have any skill, I didn't have any technique, I didn't have any knowledge. And I think I would have been very much exposed to Nick's kind of fashion world. And I think as a 20-year-old, that would have been incredibly appealing. And, when I really think it through, I don't think I'm wondering if being exposed to that for longer would have made me want to be a fashion photographer, which I've never have wanted to be, and I'm dreadful as a fashion photographer because I don't care about the clothes, and I think to be a really great fashion photographer you have to be passionate about the clothes, and I'm just not. So it's there's 2 or 3 10 decisions that you make in your life that you kind of look back on. As I say, it's not a regret. It's just wondering what would have happened. Big decisions.
For what it's worth, okay, early on in my career, also when I was like 20, 21, I had an opportunity, and I blew it for a stupid reason, to work as like a third assistant for an iconic photographer. Okay, and for a long time, I was kicking myself about it. It was a guest on this episode who had a very close working relationship with this particular photographer. When I related this story to this person, said, "Oh no, it's the best thing you ever did was to not get it, because you would have left photography." Everybody who worked for this individual, after being with him for a while, went into a totally different career.
I think that's what anybody that works for me for more than 5 minutes, I think.
If anything, you even mentioned that had you gone into that and perhaps stayed in fashion because that was his bent, okay? Think about the variety of portraiture and work that you're doing right now that you might not have done because you
100%.
might have been professionally pigeonholed as, there are some people that can't break out what they do. What you managed to accomplish in your time is a very broad body of work that might be better on a lot of levels, including just for yourself.
Yeah, but the other thing is, if I'd gone into that and been successful, I might be able to buy a new Leica lens cap for my camera.
No, still.
Well, I suppose I'd never be able to afford that, but
Mark, you mentioned to John a new and different project that you developed during the COVID quarantine here in New York. Now, a lot of this project has been kept under wraps, but word on the street is that it has to do with dance, and this is a new avenue for you. So we want to hear a little bit about this, or as much as you can tell us. What can you tell us?
To cut a very short story long way.
That's why we invited you, man.
So I think it started that, as I think I started to get a little stifled as a creative, which is nothing new. I mean, it happens most days, but the pandemic certainly enhanced that feeling of not really being able to do something I love, which is talk or interact with people, and that extends that kind of extends through into photography. But that's the kind of thing that I really miss most, was just having people to be around as part of a team, which I'm a big team player, but also just kind of directing and making stuff happen. And I was looking at a lot of amazing pandemic projects that had come out of the pandemic, people that were really pushing themselves to try new things and to see how they could make this work for them, and keep a sense of the creative process and whatnot. And I tried about 2 or 3 things. One of the first things I tried was, I had this great drone that we had bought and used for shooting a car job, and I thought, okay, I'm going to be a drone photographer. And I went out and I really persisted. I mean, I went out at least 3 times. I mean, I was on top of it. And I took all these photos and I thought, oh wow, I'm going to be a drone photographer. And I looked at them and they're total crap. It's like, no, this is a mastery that I don't have. I don't see it. I don't get what's interesting. I can't do that. So I kind of felt like I got to photograph some people. And my sister-in-law is a very well accomplished choreographer in New York. Her name is Lonnie Landon. And we'd been talking for a while about, just shooting some dancers for fun and see what dance photography was all about. And currently we have this big empty warehouse space. And although it's not north light, the light, we have huge windows on the west side, and we're right on the Hudson. So when the light is it's just beautiful. We got a lot of reflection off the Hudson coming in through the windows. And when you walk into this big open space, it really made me think Irving Penn, who's one of my heroes, even though he would cringe, at how the light is not north light. But anyway, I have this Charles Broderson, who makes backdrops, had made a backdrop for Penn, and Penn picked it up and never liked it and asked for some changes, and then shot on it again, asked for some more changes. And I don't know what the end of the story is, but the bottom line is it was never picked up. And Charles had cut it into kind of 3 pieces and, was renting them. But I bought one because I loved it so much. I thought, wow, this is my really good opportunity to pay some homage to one of my heroes. And the other thing is that I never shoot daylight. So I was trying to set myself up with like big challenges, shooting something that's moving, being 30, 40 feet apart from that person, shooting daylight, having no idea what was correct in the photograph I was making, because I'm not. I'm not a dancer in any way, shape, or form. And then also, shooting at thousandths of a second, trying to freeze motion, shooting wide open on a Leica S, which the autofocus is slower than the crosstown bus, but let's not talk about that. And then, so it was like, okay, big challenges for you, Mark. And then what was so bizarre is when we started this, these incredible creatures would come in from different genres of dance. We started off with Lonnie's friends, who were like modern dancers or contemporary dancers. And I literally would just say, what do you want to listen to? And they'd say, put on some jazz funk or put on some Vivaldi or whatever they were feeling. We'd put the music on, and I'd step back into my little shooting space, which was, at least 35, 40 feet away from them. And they would just perform. And for so many of them, it was the first time that they had actually got to dance outside their apartments, or outside a Zoom class in this big, beautiful space with beautiful light, with music, with a little audience of, me, my producer, and Lonnie.
And no lamps and end tables to trip over.
Nothing to trip over. No cats to kick. We heard about some pet injuries. I can't.
So,
I can't even share that. But
can I ask real quick about the lens you were using and the distance factor?
Yeah.
What was the inspiration or the need for that?
So of course I choose the wrong camera and the wrong lens. I mean, if I was smart, I would have shot. I love my SL. I have an SL2, and I love that because the focus is instant, and you can do things like tell it to find a face, and it's beautiful, and it would have been perfect. But when I kind of played with it for this particular project, the EVF, even though I don't want to get technical, I don't know what I'm talking about, but the EVF refresh rate, still when you take a photo, you're losing something because it does go dark for a second, right? And then, when you're shooting a dancer and you're trying to like get in their rhythm, I just felt that an EVF didn't feel connected enough. Is EVF the right term?
Yeah. Electronic viewfinder. Yes, it is. Yes.
So I really wanted the glass viewfinder, and I just thought, God, but the S is such a beast. How am I going to, and the 120 millimeter lens is an incredible portrait lens. But what I really loved about it is how it kind of compressed things a little bit onto the backdrop. And I loved being able to shoot the dance. And what I was really amazed about, and I suppose I'm not really used to this because I've been using the SL2 so much. There's I don't know if the delay is shorter or it just feels shorter because the screen's going dark for a second, and then the person juts over to the other side if they're doing something fast. I probably have the camera set up wrong, to be honest, but this was my experience, and I'm sure that people from Leica,
whatever works.
I'm sure that people from Leica are going to send me an email. Just turn the thing on, and you wouldn't have. But I wanted glass, and I started making these photographs, and much to my surprise, the dancers that were involved were like, wow, these are really beautiful photographs. I was like, oh yeah, well, I mean, but why I think it worked was because for the first time in a long time, I was giving people space to do their thing. You're sitting down with one of the people that you mentioned that I photographed, and I might have 10, 15 minutes to make something happen, and I'm like talking a million miles an hour, deprecating, just trying to get a smile or a reaction or a frown or something, and it's me trying to make it happen in this short amount of time, and that's worked for me. But I realized I can't do that with these people. I have to let them breathe, and I have to give them space to do their thing. And all of a sudden, I just felt like I was getting these little beautiful intimate performances from these dancers. And if I worked, I mean, I remember the first time this happened, I'm just looking through the viewfinder, and after about 2 minutes of this amazing dancer called Rena moving in such a way, I'd actually forgotten to press the shutter because it was so beautiful to watch. I didn't want to work, I just want to watch. But I realized if I was doing a dance project, I actually had to take some photos. So I practiced that, and I've been I've been super thrilled with the results. So after about 3 weeks of that, doing 4 or 5 at a time, somebody who I trust saw it and said, "You got to do a book." And I'm like, "I'm not doing a book because if I do a book, it'll end up in the bargain basement bin at Barnes and Noble for $1, and I'll be shamed." And this is my.
I'll buy a copy. I promise.
Yeah.
I will.
Well, yeah, in the bargain basement bin. So this is why I've never done a book. I've always been so scared that. Like, what the hell does anyone want to look at my pictures for? It's just part of the. I understand where my thing comes from, and it may seem irrational, but it's real to me. It's like why would anyone want to look at this crap? But
if I could take a jump back for a second, about photographing this series. You mentioned that you have the dancers out in this open space, and then you went back to your shooting space, which was 30-something feet away or in size. I mean, now, were you working on a tripod? Were you hand-holding and moving around yourself?
I wasn't moving. The space was defined by the backdrop. The backdrop is 10 by. It's small. I think it's 12 by 8 or 12 by 10. It's not like a huge canvas, and that was
So
the
you
framing.
had a rather narrow area that they were
Super
in.
narrow.
Okay,
and I gave them a spot, and what I started to like about it was that if I had to move left because they did something half off the canvas, then still the space looked raw and industrial, and that started to appeal to me.
Now, did you have any interaction with them at all? Like, in other words, say that you saw there were two of them dancing in a certain way that you kind of liked the way the movements complement you, but they were too far apart. Would you ask them, could you do that just a little closer, or did you just not interfere at all, or just move yourself around, or both?
I tried my very, very best not to interfere, but when I saw something that I thought was beautiful, I never really asked people, on and off, like, as I say, my partner in this, is a choreographer, who's super busy. So she's not been at all the shoots, but she's been present. And she respects my way of working, but sometimes she would say, "Hey," and she would know all the terms for things. So she'd say, "Can you do that mushroom vol au vent again?" Well, maybe not the mushroom vol au vent, but that's what it sounded like.
I hope so, please.
Can you do the mushroom vol au vent thing again, or the?
I had that for dinner the other night.
Excellent. Or can you do that Prokofiev, Nissus, whatever? And she would, if there were ballet dancers or even not, and then I would take a photo, and she would go perfect. And the other thing is what a very different way for working for me with this is that I take out, when I finish shooting, I take out like all the absolute no's, whether it's just awful photography, or totally out of focus or whatever, and I send everything as a link to the dancers first. And I've said to them, listen, I really want these photos to say more about you than the dance. I love the light. I love the situation. And which ones do you?
How many photos would that be? I'm curious.
It could be like 300 to 500.
Okay. All right.
I'm not good enough to just take a shot.
No, you are,
you
definitely,
can't
but
with that kind of you're dealing with movement.
Yeah.
You can't take a shot. Yeah. Yes, you could say, "Oh, I just got the great shot," and it's over. No, you keep going.
Right. That I've had so many funny. We ask people to do this, and they say, "How long do you need?" And I'm like, half an hour. And they're like, "What? Photo shoots are like 4 hours." I'm like, no. And so, they've been thrilled at the amount of the less amount of time that they have to be there. They give their best in the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and the other thing I've been doing is that straight after they've danced, I sit them down and I make a more my style portrait, but also in the available light. And at that point, I get to really play with them a little bit and pull some emotion or something. And then I'm just left with this beautiful juxtaposition of the portrait with the movement shot. Wow. And so we did about 30, and then all of a sudden the dance community is very small. People start to hear about it. And all of a sudden now, where we've shot over 115 dancers, we have everybody from Misty Copeland through James Whiteside through Andy Blankenbuehler, who's the choreographer for Hamilton, to all the leads, many of the leads from Alvin Ailey. We've got leads from Martha Graham. We've got, every dance company we have people from, and then we've also we have the hip hop dancers. We've got some legends as a fellow Gus Solomon Jr. who's 83, who's one of the living legends of modern dance in New York City, and he came and worked. So it's really turned into something that was just beyond my wildest dreams.
And was it all done during lockdown, or is it ongoing, or how are we?
We started during lockdown when I started working again in September, and my partners in the YouTube channel, and we decided that we would bubble. So I was in the studio every day. And at that point, when dancers came in, as I say, it's like a 30,000 square foot empty warehouse. So
you had room.
So we had room.
Space.
So I would wear a mask, and everybody would be masked up in the beginning, and then they would take off their mask to dance. But as I say, everybody was like 30, 40 feet away from them. And then that's where it started. But now with hopefully more people. Well, if we're all vaccinated in the room and we're all comfortable, we don't wear masks. But if somebody's not vaccinated and asks us to wear masks, we'll wear masks. So we're right in the middle. I think I'm close to ending shooting another 5-6 weeks. We're just waiting for some people that we really want that were, on vacation or had to be convinced.
I have a question for you on this project, and that when looking at your work while prepping for the show, you are equally strong in black and white and color. What was this project? Black, white, color, or both?
Black and white.
It was. I was hoping you were going to say that.
I was trying to give it a timeless feel, and black and white really helps with that, and the natural light really helps with that, and the backdrop really helps with that, and it's a total homage to Penn, and that's it's my best attempt. Not that it will ever come close to the genius of Penn. I'm trying my best to just pay homage to the man that I think is the greatest photographer that's ever lived.
On that note, we are going to take a short break, and we come back more with Mark Mann, more about his dance project and complicated things. Stay tuned.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of the B&H Photography Podcast. The best way to support the show is by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. For links to gear and more information on today's guests, check out the show notes in your podcast app or visit our homepage on the B&H Explorer website and join the B&H Photography Podcast Facebook group. And now, back to the show.
Okay, we are back with Mark Mann. Mark, John had a couple of questions he wanted to follow up on before we went for the break. John, take it.
Thank you, and thanks again, Mark, for joining us. I just wanted to follow up on some of the points you were making regarding your interaction with the dancers, but also about the editing process. And I'm kind of blown away that you sent all those images to the dancers, and I want to hear what their feedback was. But the first question I had, it comes from the comment you made about your normal style of portraiture, where it's quick and you feel like you're on. And then in this case you let the dancers do their thing. But when the dancers were, or let's say when you felt you had the images you needed, or did you just kind of let them continue doing their things? I mean, how did that process work?
I would never stop. I would shoot until I would never stop it. I would shoot until they were ready for a minute, and I would call them and I say, hey, or do you want to take a break and come and see what we've shot? And that would really inspire them, because we were tethered and had like a nice big 30-inch monitor, and lovely settings, monochrome settings in Capture One, and people would just. And that really worked as well for if they were a little insecure, because a lot of these people, I mean, if I look at myself that put on 50 pounds during the pandemic, they weren't performing every day. And even in the gym or trying to keep fit is not the same as when your job is to put out this amount of energy every day or every night or 8 times a week or whatever. So there was a lot of people that were body conscious, which is a joke when you saw them. But they didn't feel in themselves. So there was definitely some of the dancers that were a little insecure. But then when they saw the photos and the light, and then went back to do another set, they were just really inspired. And
isn't that a great feeling though for you? I mean, in my experience, anytime the subject sees the work and you can kind of see the smile that breaks in their face, or whatever they have, it's so inspiring. It really makes it all worthwhile.
It's just the best. It's just absolutely the best. And I felt good about the setup, because I'm using a mirrored camera. I don't know how to say it anymore, with a glass viewfinder, but still getting some great technology in there while shooting tethered and being able to present the photo to the dancer immediately, kind of close-ish to how the final product was going to be. So that was really great. And shooting tethered is. I'm just super happy with the Leica Capture One relationship, where I've shot, I don't know, 50, 60,000 photos tethered. And apart from the times when I roll over my Leica cable with the chair 5 or 6 times, I haven't really had a drop. So, that just being able to keep the technology out of the way, have it there, but just to be able to shoot was brilliant. It's so funny. I came up with film, and I'm so in my head. When I ever pick up a camera and I start taking photos, I count, because back in the day when I had 10 frames on an RZ, you get to 7, 8. Okay, it's going to stop in 2 frames. Let's make something happen, or so you could get a camera change or a back change. I'm at like 256, 257, 250. I still count when I'm shooting. It's really bizarre. 367.
I mean, the collaboration aspect then, also carried over, as you were mentioning, to the editing. So you sent them these images.
So this is how it would work. I would send them all to the dancer on some kind of software that would let them just heart their favorites and make a comment. And some dancers sent back, these are the only 4 I absolutely love. Because I would say to them, anything you send back might be something that we would use. So if you're not sure, if you're like, I don't know, don't send it back. But the majority would give us a nice selection of 20, 30, even 40 pictures. And then it would go to the choreographer Lonnie, my sister-in-law, and she would start looking at what was kind of dance appropriate or what she felt we needed for the book. And then I would get left with about 4 to choose from, which was absolutely perfect for me because I knew that I didn't have to worry about if they were dance correct, and I didn't have to worry or not whether the talent was going to approve it. I just so this process.
And did you work that out beforehand? Did you speak about that beforehand? Because imagine a lot of people, are not used to that, and even wouldn't want to look through that many photos of themselves, was everybody
I think
willing?
most of the dancers were willing. Sometimes on
that crowd, I would imagine they are.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, they want to. I think it was such an insanely weird thing for them to be able to choose what photos they wanted. Usually, it's like, oh God, I open up people say I open up the New York Times and some guy was at the performance last night, took some photos, and that's the one he used. Look at my foot; it's at the wrong angle. Oh, look at my face, and I just. And obviously I don't know enough about dance to know how the leg or the ankle should be, so giving that responsibility to somebody else and just, I'm good at whether it's a nice composition or not, but I felt that it had to have a little more, I had to be a little more responsible to the dancers, that they had to be happy.
That is an incredibly important point you're making right now. I think it's important to admit that you're not the final say here, and you have to have it for everybody's sake. And it makes your work better if you actually go in with that attitude that, no, I have to make sure that it is correct. And it's not just for dance, it's a lot of things of this sort where there are forms or certain guidelines and protocols that define what makes it good, what makes it bad. Just like we have rules about composition, there's rules of dance because dance is composition. And then you have the person themselves and their portrayal and how they come off. So that's important. And I'm glad you mentioned that again, we make X amount of decisions. And after a point, you look at somebody else and go, guidance, please.
100%. And that has been so just removed. I get 5 pictures and I struggle over the 5. I go, oh my God, I love that one. Or, this one is so great. So, I mean, also sometimes on set, a dancer will come over and just look and say, that's the one. And then, okay, done. We're done. That's the one. So that happens too. The other thing, which much to the chagrin of anybody who has anything to do with my finances, the other thing which I did, which I think is super, super important for me in this project, is that, I don't know, let's say there's 3 of us on our production side, and then there are however many dancers, but let's say 3 plus 97 is 100. If the book earns $100, we all get $1. That's the way I want it set up.
But that's the dollar you're going to frame and put on the wall.
I think it's more likely to be like 25 cents, but that would need a shadow box after tax. Yeah, but I just really wanted that out there because as somebody who's been taking photographs for a long time, I know how often I've been kind of abused or work shown in a way that I didn't quite agree with, or work, sold in a way that maybe I didn't understand when I was young and signed the contract, and and I just wanted to really not do that to other artists. And
so can
that's
I ask
where the process came.
Mark, because it sounds like, I mean, and forgive me if I'm wrong here, that there's, and we're all dealing with the self-reflection that came with the quarantine and reevaluating our careers and things. But it seems to me that a lot of that is going on, and this project could either shatter things for you and make the whole world new and fresh, or not. I mean, But is this kind of where you're going with this? Does it feel like it's kind of revived or reinvigorated your love here, or
Definitely.
or what's going to happen with these millions of photos, these thousands of photos you've taken? I know a book, hopefully, but what about you personally?
It's definitely it's weird. Things in photography aren't I mean, things have changed. I mean, as you say, like, yes, we've had a year of reflection, but let's be honest. I mean, this is the curve that we're on is always has been the curve that we've been on for a long time. It's just been sped up by the pandemic. And I, I've had the best job in the world. I mean, I can't, but nothing lasts forever. And I still feel that I have something to offer, but I don't think it's. I think it's going to change. So, like, however rapidly it's changing, I think it's going to change faster. And I really wanted not to be bitter about new technology. I really want not to be bitter about, oh, I used to have this job and it doesn't exist anymore because it's done by. So do something else, Mark. What else can you do? And fine art is something which I have never, ever, ever touched, ever. I mean, to be honest, who wants you know, portrait of Mitch McConnell in their bathroom? It's just like I haven't.
Location.
I haven't. I've never really pushed or found a market for my portraiture in the fine art world because it's not fine art. It's commercial. I love it. I'm pleased with at least 12 of the photos I've taken in my life, but I've never had this fine art side of it, and I've been pushed towards it a lot by different people, but I've never found the energy to do it. And yeah, it's definitely invigorating. It's definitely challenging, but all the challenges that I've faced, I've the challenges aren't new. It's just the way you approach them and handle them that are new.
Right.
The problems are the problems.
That's a really good point.
But what I'm being really careful about is that, as I say, we're in talks with a couple of publishers. I think finding a publisher is a no-brainer because of incredibly how lucky we were in getting the talent that we got or are getting. But it's just making sure it's the right publisher and the right thing, and
Well, I look forward to seeing that book no matter where I bump into it at any bookstore. I mean, I hear what you're saying or what you were saying before about, a fear of finding a book that nobody wants. But first of all, I will have to disagree about some of your photography. I think it's great. And
Yeah, back that one. Yep.
with this one, I'm sure it's going to be incredible. So, however it pans out, it sounds like the process has been good and
it's been
got
amazing.
the juices going again. That's great. I mean, and different. I mean, so different. I mean, like, you mentioned, just with this idea of movement and the sense of the body is different from this stillness and this quickness that you described. So,
and
change is real.
One of the phenomenal things is that a lot of the dancers, I say, what music do you want to listen to? And they say, can you put on a playlist by, I don't know, Kloptum Klopasha from Katusha? And I'm like, wow, I've never heard of them. And then all of a sudden now my Spotify have like these amazing playlists of new artists that I really like. So it's been a great education in listening to some music that was made after 1973, which is, seriously unusual for me, but it's been really nice.
And did the dancers did you just play music they chose, or did some of them come in with, some of their more well-known pieces that they've worked on? Or
some of the dancers we photographed are incredibly technical ballet dancers. And to be honest, the music is irrelevant to them. This is the technical points that I'm going to hit, and I don't care what it is. It's nice to have music on, but I don't care. I don't need it. I don't want it. And that's one type of dancer. Other types of dancers are certainly like some of the hip hop or street dancers are really like need that kind of beat to get them to do what they. I mean, I'm sure they can do it without it, but it really helps. So it's been really varied. I would say, 10% of the dancers, I say, what do you want to listen to? They say, I don't care. Or they'll say, oh, I like the vibe that's on or whatever. But, some people are very specific. They want a specific song. They want a specific thing. It's been a real education. It's not one size fits all in any way, shape or form.
And ultimately, you'll have, or at least in thought, you'll have one of the portraits that you took, more of the Mark Mann style portraits, along with the dance images, or are there details, like, for example, of feet and things like that, or what do you expect the edit will be like?
The portraits are definitely in my style, with the respect that it's my camera. That's my portrait lens that I use all the time. The angles are very similar. What makes them super different is it's daylight. Still got a super shallow depth of field, but it's daylight, and that's the other thing I've learned. And is when daylight's right, there's no other light like daylight. And I'm sure anybody who's taken photographs in daylight would tell you that, but because I've never done it, I didn't know. But now I know. But
all light is trying to emulate good sunlight and good north light. That's what that's what all the lighting manufacturers are often trying to do.
Yeah.
I had a question on that that you mentioned, going from studio lighting to available light, and especially the kind of work that you're doing with the equipment that you're using. You had to change your exposure times with strobe. Even at wider apertures, you could freeze your subject to a certain point. But with light coming in from west windows, you are dealing with true long exposure times. How did this change your working mechanism, if it did?
I was shooting 60. I'm usually shooting. The light is very soft but quite strong. Even on a gray day, if I shoot 1600 ISO and I shoot wide open at f2.5, then my shutter speed is usually somewhere between 750 and 1250 or 1500.
Oh, okay.
Which I wanted. What I love about the feel of it is the motion is certainly it's not frozen like a strobe, but it's stopped. But what I love about it is it still has that little feel that almost that it's this is not strobe,
Gotcha.
So yeah. There's we actually did a little video on. I know we're going to talk about complicated things, but we did a video for a YouTube channel called a Dance Project with Natural Light, or it's on the Complicated Things channel, and it's a little behind the scenes, and it shows some of the early images. So if anyone wants to check that out, I would say it's worth maybe 15 to 30 seconds of your time, possibly 45.
Speaking of which, you mentioned complicated things. Now, this is a new business, a new element to your photo work. Fill us in on this complicated things. What is this?
So,
you're a busy boy.
Well, it's weird after the pandemic when, like proper paid work starts to interfere with your personal work. It's like, what? I don't have time to shoot that. I've got personal work I got to be doing.
You noticed that too, huh?
What do you mean? I can't go there. I've got. So this really started. When I started to get a few more followers on Instagram, I started to get these really. I thought they were very interesting. Some of the usual. What f-stop do you use? I don't know. I just open it, but some like more kind of deeper questions that were like challenging to me about process and whatnot, things that I'd never thought about. And I would try and answer them, and people seemed to like the answers. And I've been teaching a little bit over the last few years with the Leica Academy, and that seemed to go pretty well. Nobody died on any of our seminars, which I thought was a major success. And what were we going to do? How are we going to expand? How are we going to think about, how am I going to think about what's happening in, 10 years in my business? And then somebody explained to me passive income, which I thought sounded great. So my partner and I decided to come up with this YouTube channel. It's called Complicated Things. And basically, it kind of goes on two paths. It's how Mark does things or how I do things. but genuinely trying to talk about how I do things and why I do things. And then the other part of it is that in order to make this video channel, we've had to, we don't have big production resources. So we've had to, be a little scrappy. But production quality is important to me. I might not know how to do it, but I just didn't want to be, I didn't want to, I wanted to have a certain production value. So that's been another, like, that started off as a big learning curve, is like, how do you make these videos? How do you edit these videos? How do you write a script? How do you, perform a script? How do you keep your so after like some months or a couple of months of that, we decided that it would be great to incorporate that learning curve into the videos. Like, yeah, I've come from a career of stills photography, and now I'm doing running a production company that makes YouTube videos. How do you do it? Like, I can't use this tripod that would just is so old that it just about manages for stills with gaffer tape on it to do these video shots. What tripod do I need to buy? For me, like, well, what do we need for our production company? So that's where it's been, and it's been a lot of fun. It's kept me incredibly busy. It's the steepest learning curve I think I've been on since my kid was born. That was pretty steep, but it's
the handbooks are terrible.
Oh God. Everything is going really well with it. I mean, our numbers are good. People are watching. We have some sponsors. It's all going on the right trajectory. But just the learning curve has been, tremendous. Like, what actual cameras should we shoot this on? In the beginning.
And what did you choose?
Currently, we are on some Blackmagic 6Ks, which I have a great relationship with Blackmagic, and they kind of lent them to us to kind of start this, and then asked them for them back, and I basically sent back a bucket of tears, and they've allowed us to keep them on for a little longer. But it's like, for me, it's what's been interesting is, my cameras are Leicas. Now, Leicas make video camera, the SL2S, which is geared for video, but, is that the camera to put on a Ronin? So just being open to other gear has been really interesting. Rotolite, who are, I've been using for portraits forever, have been a really great sponsor and helper on the channel, and we love their lights. But, you can't light a video like you light a still. And then all of a sudden it's like, Mark, how do you want to light this? I've got no idea. So that's been the learning curve. How much hard drive space you need, like, it doesn't matter how big a shoot I do. If I shoot 300-400 gigs in a day, it's like mammoth. But, shoot that in a couple of hours. Where'd you store it? How'd you store it? How'd you back it up? So all like real life experiences of the struggles we're going through and how we're fixing them is part of the channel. And I think that's, a really interesting part of it. But no, it's complicated things on YouTube.
How many episodes are there so far?
Well, I think we've done about 30. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, we've
all right,
done
so
about 30.
you've got a good compilation out there.
Yeah, we started off with 2 a week to try and build some momentum, which we did, and then we fell back to 1 a week, which is where we wanted to be. And over the summer, we've been putting out, one every 2 weeks, but we're going to get back to once a week again shortly. But I check it out, please. If it's crap, let me know in the comments.
Hey, you know what? Feedback of both types makes a constructive
criticism. Constructive.
And I think, by the way, just even doing 1 a week, knowing what goes into this podcast, which we do once a week, is tremendous. Doing 2 a week, that would be that's a full-time job, if not more.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I love your self-deprecation and your humor for sure. But my question has, and maybe that's the answer, but you've been all over. You lived in London, you worked in London, you've lived and worked in New York, and I'm sure throughout the States and the world for a long time. But you're from Glasgow originally. What would you say? Do you hold on from your upbringing in Scotland, or something about the place in the family that you grew up in that you kind of retain that might give you strength when you need it, or humor, or what would you say?
It's the humor, man. It's the humor. Here's a little situation that happened to me about 8, 9 years ago. My mom asked me to go to the store to pick her something up, and I go to the store and I make eye contact with a guy that I haven't seen since I left high school. So 60, I don't know, 30 years, maybe 25 years. I haven't seen him, but I know his face because he was kind of a bit of like a cool guy, like somewhere between a bully and a cool guy. But he had, reputation and credibility, which I certainly didn't have any in high school. So, and I thought, do I have to say hello? I mean, I'm having a bit of a Seinfeld moment with myself. Do I have to say hello? What's the protocol? And I just thought, okay, I'm going to say hi. I go, hey, how you doing? And he looks at me and goes, you're Mark Mann, aren't you? I went, yeah. How you doing? He goes, you think you're all fancy because you live in New York. I'm like, what? I'm just kind of speechless. And he goes, you're still a wanker. He walked away.
God.
And it just took me back to a different place and time of like, yeah, that's that. When you're in Glasgow, that's what you grow up with. There's nothing as, and I think that if you could just, and it was like, I just laughed and laughed and laughed. And he wasn't being malicious. That was him being friendly. Do you know what I mean? It was like, he was just being him. And like,
and he said it because he loves you.
No, I didn't say because he loves me. It's just this thing about, you can't get away with anything.
Right.
You just, I have no idea how he knows where I live, who I am, what I am. I have no idea, but just the fact that he just recognized it and thought it was his job that day to bring me down a notch is just Glasgow. And I think I live with that, and I adore it. And, if you can't find some humor in yourself, then I don't think you find any humor in anything.
Okay. Mark, it's been an absolute a pleasure talking to you about your work, old and new, for the past hour or so. And we really hope to have you back again when this book is published, your dance book. And we definitely look forward to that. It sounds absolutely wonderful. And again, I'm so thankful it's in black and white. I was hoping you were going to say that.
It is. And thank you guys so much for having me. It's the best. I've the pandemic, I did a load of these, but you guys are special, and I really appreciate you, and I really appreciate the hard work you put in to put something out for me every week. So I genuinely appreciate you.
Wow, that's much appreciated. Thank you very, very, very much. In the meantime, aside from complicated things on YouTube, if people want to catch up on your work, where can they go to?
Instagram's quite good, Mark Mann Photo. The website's kind of like an archive, markmanphoto.com. And as I say, and I've always said, reach out. I love to hear from people. I really genuinely do. So reach out. I do everything in my power to kind of get back to everyone. And I'm just honored that anybody thinks that it's worth taking their time. So I definitely will try. We would always try and take a moment to answer anything or say, I don't know, don't ask me. But
I should also add that if any of our listeners went to grade school with you, and you want to tell Mark what you think of him, reach out too. Okay, he likes that kind of feedback as well. It sobers him.
It was just the best, man. I just think about it all the time. It was just like, there's this little part of me. Oh, this guy knows who I am now. There's no way he knew who I was in high school.
And now we all know.
And now he knows who I am, and I feel really good. And then he just hits me with that, and I'm like, yes, I'm home.
Okay. And again, well, Mark's all of these links to all of these sites are on our show notes, so check them out there. And if you enjoy listening to the B&H Photography Podcast and you're not yet a subscriber, what you're waiting for, head on over to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you snag your favorite shows and type in B&H Photography Podcast, hit enter, and you'll be the first on your block to queue up the latest episode of the show the moment it comes out. And if you're already a subscriber, leave a nice comment. The boss actually reads this stuff. And you can always find this on the B&H Explorer website and on the B&H Photography Podcast Facebook group page. And just a reminder, head over to our show notes and take the survey. Let us know what you like about the show, what you'd like to see happen on the show. Give us ideas, give us some feedback. Again, this is your podcast as much as it is ours. So again, head over to the show notes of the B&H Photography Podcast. Take a few moments, take the survey, so we can continue to bring you the B&H Photography Podcast for years to come. Unless told otherwise, my name is Alan Weitz, and on behalf of John Harris and Jason Tables, thank you oh so much for tuning in today.